Okay.
Nice.
Oh, good. It's working now. Hi, everyone. I'm Joy Rosa with Earthworks Acupuncture, and we're here today with special guest Kambale Musavuli, a Congolese human rights activist and a Pan-African working with different youth groups across the African continent. Welcome, Kambale, and if you can tell us where you're located right now and just a little bit about your ancestral background.
Yes. So I'm in Accra. Ghana. Confined as everyone is at the moment with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm originally from the Congo. Was born and raised there. Left the country when I was 17. Moved to the US. So spent most of my life also in the United States. But for the past 5 years at least, I've been spending more time on the African continent. As there is there a need for change and transformation. So I've made myself available to movements and helping them in whichever way I can. And the moment I'm deployed in Ghana, and I'm helping a TV station here, the Serious Forum of Ghana, which is an organization also working in Ghana to move things, right? So I guess that's what I can say about who I am.
Yes, thank you. And what do you think is the most important issue for people in the United States to understand as you are in Ghana now, but are working with Congolese activists experiencing COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic caught Africa by surprise. Many African countries were not prepared for it. And I think many countries can say the same, right? That is fascinating because I've lived in the United States. I'm able to see what my American friends are saying. They're saying literally what we are saying too. Mm-hmm. You know, people thought that everything was okay. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, didn't realize that how healthcare system could not take care of it. Okay. So it's the same reality with Africans, that many countries at first did not know the seriousness of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. While the numbers are very low in terms of the cases that many African countries are reporting, people should not think that the reason why the numbers are low is because of climate. The virus doesn't live in hot climate easier. That's been already debunked. That's not the reality. I mean, the reason why the numbers are low in terms of reported cases on the African continent is because of the lack of capacity to test the population. And because we're not able to test the population, many people are going about their lives not even realizing what is happening to them health-wise. And also, how can I even frame it? The people also do not understand the impact of social media. Mm-hmm. When I'm talking social media, United States, they usually think of Facebook. That's not the reality in Africa. The most important social media platform is WhatsApp. That's one of the major means of communication across the African continent. People get data and try to connect on WhatsApp, and a lot of information is being shared there, and many of them false information. And someone just to create some form of context, it may be outrageous. Someone in Nevada posts something about this COVID-19 is not true, it's fake. Mm-hmm. Look, I've survived it because I did ABCD, and take some images and put it together. Post that on their Facebook. That person does not know that someone in the network can copy this information, share it with someone else, and next thing you know, it ends up on WhatsApp and get distributed all across the globe. And someone in a very remote area is reading, oh, I found out that Black people cannot get COVID. Right. I am in Africa. Which means that I probably won't get it. And then they go on about their lives because I said there is this information being shared around COVID-19, not affecting Black people, not affecting people in a climate where they are that is warm,
Right.
and people spread it. So those as information sharing, false information sharing, has also affected many African countries.
Yeah.
And that is also one of the reasons why I decided to do a video, especially a video for my people, that with the hope that people will share it.
Yeah.
And people know that this is real. People in Ghana are catching COVID-19. It doesn't discriminate.
Right.
And at least from the information that I know, which I'm using what I can say trusted source, is that it's not deadly, but it is highly infectious.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you get to a certain stage, it can become fatal, especially if you have other medical conditions with you. So just sharing that information to people on the African continent is vital to save lives.
Yes, and that we're finding that too, very similarly here in the United States. Lots of false information. Also, we have the same thing, social media kind of running rampant. So for a long time too, there were certain populations, within my community that, oh yeah, we can't get it, or, pockets of the Southeast where I met you in North Carolina, right? Like the numbers seem really low, but it's because there aren't enough testing and testing sites to do this and get accurate numbers. So that's a very good point. And also a good point that it is highly infectious, but can become fatal. So, in terms of healthcare in the DRC and in Ghana, there are probably different kinds of healthcare disparities there that would affect, the overall outcome when faced with COVID. So what do the people of the DRC have access to in terms of healthcare and, or preventative measures, or in case of emergency measures?
In terms of Western standard of healthcare, Congo will be considered one of the third world countries with no medical facilities and so on. Mm-hmm. But he also has to be put in a context, because, everything is taking us by shock, right? In the United States, people will say the reason why the healthcare system is not able to care for people is because of profits, right? Mm-hmm. The profit model of how healthcare is done and the privatization of healthcare has caused that at this moment, hospitals cannot take care of that. So there is a historical background of why that's the case in the United States. But on the African continent, particularly in the Congo, it's really through the World Bank and IMF. In the mid-80s and 80s actually, they pushed a project called the Structural Adjustment Program that provided governments with financial resources to do certain projects to achieve certain benchmarks, right? Sounds very nice the way it was presented at the time. But what these programs actually did was to take resources from the state and move it to the private sector, and not focus on very basic things that citizens needed, such as education, such as healthcare. So the funding went in all the sectors, entrepreneurship, mining, extractive industry, and so on. And many countries for the past 3 decades, they have seen the healthcare system not being built. They have seen the education system deteriorate. And with this crisis, it exposed it. I don't have the right statistics, but I will not be surprised if in the whole entire country, the size of Western Europe, the Congo, right, that we probably do not have more than 10,000 to 20,000 beds for 81 million people. I wouldn't be surprised, but don't have the numbers to actually show that. But I know that we don't have access to the so-called Western standard of healthcare.
Right.
But do people take care of themselves? Of course. Congo is right by the equator. Mm-hmm. We have the second largest rainforest in the world after the Amazon, right? We have malaria in Congo. Not everyone can afford Western medicine to cure malaria. Mm-hmm. So when you get malaria from the mosquito bite, it's a specific mosquito, No, there are plants that you take that cures malaria. So that's not something that we found that in 2020. That's something our ancestors have been using for centuries. When some of the invaders of the African continent came around the malaria disease, they could not survive it. But we already knew such plants will cure it. You know, one of them is called Congo, right? And there are other plants that people use to treat themselves. So even though we may not have the adequate healthcare system, we do have traditional way of dealing with issues that we have whenever we get sick, and we know who to go to.
That's beautiful.
When we get sick.
Is that same medicinal? Is that also the Moringa oleifera? Do you know?
No, Moringa, we call it Moringa. Congo bololo, I can't say the medical name of that plant, but share the wiki link of the medical name because I have a hard time of pronouncing the name of the medical name. But in the Congo, it's known widely as Congo bololo. I mean, even outside of that, I can share with you an article from The Economist last year.
Oh, that'd be great.
So that article on The Economist, there's quinine in the world. And quinine tree, the plant, is what's actually used to make all the quinine pills, be it what's the one that's being promoted, chloroquine, for example, that's being promoted and so on. That plant, Congo has the largest reserve of that. And that's according to The Economist last year. Okay. So when I'm hearing people are saying, oh, now we have to treat that, I'm like, oh my God, we have it already. We just take the skin of the plant and boil it. And you take it and you have no malaria. You don't need some pharmaceutical company to give you a pill to treat malaria.
Right. They're extracting just sort of like the basics out of the plant, but it's very different when you're taking traditional plant medicine and ingesting the whole plant, whether it be the rhizome or the leaf. There are different medicinal properties to each part of the plant. So the whole plant is really vital. And that's a really good point. And I'm also glad that you told us a little bit about the infrastructure or lack thereof and the support that is not there in the Congo and how it's impacted folks daily. I'm happy to hear that. Do you think that there is a turnaround? Can you talk to us a little bit about the call for traditional or proactive medicine there in a cultural context of like survival or thrival?
I mean, COVID-19 pandemic is very political because as I shared that it exposed the danger of building your institutions based on Western standards. It will not be able to deal with the challenges of your people. So you have to look at the concrete condition of your people and create solutions out of that. Unfortunately, I should just say the Congolese government is following what the West is telling them to do.
Right.
So many Western countries have decided to do lockdown, right? I know, right? In the United States, because I've lived there, right? It's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy, right? But to confine yourself and still have access to food, electricity, water is easy for you in the United States, right? It's not the same in many parts of the world, right? So Congo is a country the size of Western Europe. Right? It's a very big country. It's 1/4 the size of the United States. It has 81 million people. The vast majority of the people live with less than $1 a day. According to the World Bank, they say we have upward of 90% unemployment rate. Wow. So think about in the United States when we're talking about unemployment rates, right? When it goes above 10%, 12, and so on, right? I don't think the United States has hit 90% unemployment rate. So you know that the economy is based on informal sector.
Yeah.
So most people cannot afford not to go out a day to find something to eat.
Mm.
So confining someone during COVID-19 is literally killing them.
Yeah.
Right? You have to go out. You make less than $1 a day. You don't have food at the table. You don't have financial resources to take care of your family. You cannot have stock in your house, so you can't stay. So we know that they're going to come out. So the government has put in place confinement measures, which is ridiculous in the Congolese context. That our leaders should look at the situation and say, this is our context. Our people cannot stay home. How do we deal with the issues? And that's really the call. I'm not the only one making this call. Many Congolese are making this call to the Congolese government and say, you cannot do that to the people. Mm-hmm. We have family members. We are speaking to them. We are connected with them. They're telling us how they are struggling. Mm-hmm. But because they have used this Western standard of dealing with COVID-19, they probably went to WHO. So where WHO say, hey, to deal with COVID-19, to stop the spread, you have to stop movement. To stop movement, this is how you do it. Right? They're not thinking outside of the box. I said, okay, if the spread is through movement and air, there are other ways you can deal with doing that. So most people in Congo have not been respecting the confinement. Some people have had issues with the security forces, police, and so on, when they didn't respect the confinement measures, but people are still going out because they have to live, right? But in that context of them going out, not having adequate information, is literally creating a potential of, if COVID-19 is stopped around the globe, Congo can become the hub that will bring it back. Because it's going to be passed on. Can people treat themselves from it? Yes, absolutely, they can. And there have been propositions put forward for how people can treat themselves if they have it. Mm-hmm. But the government, which is considered the moral authority around these health issues, has not communicated properly to the population around. We know you are going to come out, so here's the protocol you should follow if you decide to come out, because that's the reality. Yeah. But that's just been confinement, stay at home. I mean, we don't have Amazon dropping off a box of anybody's house in Congo, right?
Exactly.
So people still have to go care for themselves and their family.
That's a wonderful point. And I will point out too that, yes, the majority of the United States does have that privilege. There are certain pockets in the United States, like New Orleans, for instance, or Flint, Michigan, who are in these same sort of disparities and pockets of poverty and no clean water, no access to adequate, healthcare. Since there are some pockets of the United States that are still, they sound very similar in LL. So I was able to catch your Facebook Live on Thursday, and you were discussing increased militarization during COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about the parallels that you see, the link between police brutality, health, mutual aid, the Rodney King riots you mentioned too? I really enjoyed your discussion there.
Yeah, I mean, on the African continent, we've seen increased militarization even before COVID-19. And that's something that we keep reminding people. We need to watch out that our problems don't have to be resolved with guns. It can be resolved differently. I'll use the example even before this outbreak. I don't know if you remember I think it was around 2014, right? We had the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Sierra Leone, Liberia was going through West Africa. There were responses that people provided support. I remember Cubans sent their doctors. So the doctors arrived in Ghana, and then they were deployed to help in some of the countries there. And other countries provided support. At that time, the United States decided to send the military. Obama was president at the time.
Yeah.
So they sent US soldiers for the response of Ebola. Right. And most Africans, I could even argue, we all were confused. So why is the United States deploying the military for the Ebola outbreak? It makes complete no sense, right? You're supposed to deploy doctors to come to the issue. So that type of behavior or act has continued on our African continent, right? That we are seeing now, and I can see even how the Congolese government is using other Western countries example. That you look in the United States, they've deployed the U.S. military in New York. People will say, well, they have the logistical capacity and so on. A soldier is a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that if I don't have a military uniform, I cannot do logistics,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's hard to think about that. So whenever other countries are looking, oh, the United States, the leader in the world, has deployed its military for COVID, other nations are following suit. So the Congolese government has also deployed the police and security forces across the city. And what we are seeing, I mean, there was a video being circulated. When I first saw the video, saw it through a journalist in Kinshasa. He posted a video of a taxi driver being beaten by a police officer. And they made him lay down, and they were using a baton, and they were hitting his leg. It's pretty much his femur, right? And it do break leg. So that's literally torture, public torture. But what was fascinating about the video was that it was obvious that it was being filmed,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was obvious that the police knew that it was being filmed. But there was one person in the video that shocked me. The National Chief of Police of the Congo, Silvano Kasongo, right, was literally standing over that taxi driver and ordering the police officer, keep hitting him, right? So me watching that, I start thinking, I said, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the video, the video looks like what happened to Rodney King.
Yeah.
Laying down and you seeing these officers hitting him, right? Rodney King, maybe, I'm not sure if the officers knew that there was a camera, right? Filming and so on. And I've seen that, like Juan McDonald, I think he's in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
who was also shot. And I mean, I can go on and on. Mike Brown in Ferguson.
Yeah.
That there has been this, the heightened militarization of our society where law enforcement, they believe they're invincible and they are literally above the law. And they are enforcing policies, and the policies they're enforcing while they're doing that has nothing to do with public good.
Mm-hmm.
Because the officer was actually beating the taxi driver under the pretext that he did not respect the confinement measure.
Yeah.
Right? They're confining people for public health in a situation where they cannot stay home.
Right.
Right? So beating him is saying, I want you to go home and die. So it's a complete contradiction. Then you have officers who are not even respecting the measures to protect themselves from COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
They're not 1 meter or 2 meter apart. They're all close together. There is a bus, a truck behind with police officers inside of that bus, all of them together as well. There are people all around, and you start asking yourself, so are they telling us that police officers don't catch COVID-19?
Right.
So what is it that they are enforcing? And that brought back so much memory, like the whole concept, that's how it's extreme. In the United States, they try to do it in hiding.
Yes.
In the Congo, the police is that arrogant that they will film themselves hitting the people, and the video is going viral, and nothing has happened. There is no like reprimand from the state.
Who would reprimand them? Yeah.
Video, I mean, you saw the video.
Yeah.
I'm sure the president of the Congo has seen the video. I'm sure state officials in the Congo have seen. This video is circulating.
Wow.
But the chief of police in Congo knows that nothing will happen to him. So when this happens, right, and you start asking yourself, what is more deadly?
Yeah.
Is it COVID-19 or state security forces?
Right.
If you had the choice, will you say, I would get COVID-19 or I will let myself being killed or assaulted by state security forces. But that's not the only place that's happening. It's happening in South Africa. Just this week that's just ending now, 3 people were killed by South African police. They are going into some of the shanty towns in South Africa, specifically in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay.
And they are evicting people from their homes. And through that process, they killed 3 people, right? The only reason why this is now an issue, like the government is saying they're going to address it in South Africa, is because the information was spread across the globe, and people shine light on the issue. That I think 2 days later, they said there is an investigation on what happened, because everyone is asking South Africa, the South African government, why are you killing your own citizens? Something happened in Rwanda. Rwanda, the Rwandan government went into the slums and destroyed the homes of people in the slums. Then passed the COVID-19 measures saying you have to stay in your home. So now the poor who had the small houses that they have built, their houses have been completely destroyed. Where are they going to go home to? So the security forces in Rwanda killed 2 people. And what the news is not saying is these are the poor people who have been displaced from their home and have nowhere to go. And the police is saying, why are you in the streets? And got into a scuffle and they killed them. All this is happening. And you try to rewind and say, okay, in April of 2019, we did not have COVID-19. We did not have all these measures, right? People did not have to face this the same way. Now we have COVID-19, and the confinement measure and the policies being implemented is to bring military. And every time you do that, there are always abuses reported. I mean, we know that historically, that whenever you bring soldiers around in this context, there will always be abuse, because there is no accountability, because the law of the land completely changed. It becomes a state of emergency and so on. And the soldiers know, because it's a state of emergency, I can say, oh, this person assaulted me or spit on me or hit me. They can create whatever they want. And there is retribution to...
Oh. Well, we got cut off. That was such an informative conversation, and I think that Kambale makes a lot of really amazing parallels and points regarding healthcare within the African continent and specific countries within Africa, and paralleling that to here in the United States. What we're seeing right now is that there is no adequate healthcare system in place in Africa, and our infrastructure of healthcare has not been able to be as strong as it possibly could be, especially in terms of preventative medicine. I really do commend over and over again to all of the emergency workers that are in the hospitals, all our nurses, doctors, and I just really want to extend my deepest gratitude for you. And, now we must look for new ways in order to supplement the healthcare system, which are in fact old ways of traditional medicine. This is a real call to action on behalf of Global People's Solutions. So I don't know if Kambale can rejoin the chat, but stay tuned with his channel and see how much work and outstanding effort we can put into their community and people of the Congo. And thank you for tuning in. Peace.